Hi, welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. We're going to have a look at the LF27 space and depth keys, and this is the product right here that we sell. Now this is our chart showing us the space 1 all the way to space 6. So these are basically our spacing right here, and these are our depths right here in millimeters. So we have well, on this chart here we could be measuring with one side uncut or one side cut, or both sides cut. So these are our ones here: 400, 500, 600 and 700. So when we compare these keys that we supply here, our space and depth keys, we simply need to just measure the cuts, and this is a number 2, so I can see that this is worth 600. So there we go, 6 mil, and you get it just on the right spot. You get 6 mil exactly. It's the same with all the other keys in the set. This set comes with a blank key, a 1 cut, a 2 cut, 3 cut and a 4 cut. As with other space and depth keys, they save money and they cut a 3 on one side and a 4 on the other, so you end up with 2 keys. As with our set, you end up with a whole bunch, 5 keys. In this video here, I'm going to show you how to use these keys to actually cut a key to the lock to the correct specifications. What we have here is just a cylinder I pulled out of the used kit, and this one here is for a sliding Doric, I think, glass sliding door. So what I can do is I can look in this little window right here and go through the keys and then have a look at the wafers to see how they protrude, whether they protrude up too high or too low. And the first one there, I'm using a 1 cut, and it looks pretty good. So I'd be saying my first cut would be a 1. I'm looking at the second cut now and it's sticking right all the way up. So I'm going to go down and try a number 3, which I would be happy with. 3, and I can see the next one's a little bit lower, so I'm going to go back to a 2 and try that one. And I can say that in the third spot I'm happy with a number 2, and in the fourth spot I'm happy with a number 2 as well. And I can see the next one's lower, so it means we need more meat on the key, so I'm going to go up and go for a number 1, and I'm happy with the number 1 there. I can see the last one there is a little bit high, so I'm going to try a number 2. If not, I'll try a number 3. Alright, I'm happy with a number 2 there. So I've just decoded that lock using the space and depth keys, and now I'm going to go through and show you how I'm going to cut it. Okay, sorry about the camera work. I'm hoping that you can kind of see what's going on from that location. Alright, so now I've got my blank key. We've got our code which we've identified here, 132212. We're going to be cutting that, and we're going to be cutting it on space and depth keys. This is an LF27 sliding glass door lock. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my blank key here, check we've got power. Yep, we've got power. And I'm going to start off at the first cut. The first cut, which is position number 1, which we've already identified. So number 1 all the way to number 6. I'll be going pretty fast here, so if you need to stop it, rewind, you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm loading in my keys now. Both keys I'm setting up just as if I would be normally duplicating them. This is a double-sided key. Flicking my guide down, and I'm going to go for that first number 1 position. Now there's not much of a notch on it, so there's the number 1 position. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all the cuts on one side, then I'm going to get an additional key blank and then duplicate all those cuts onto 2 sides, and then flip it around and then duplicate it on the other one, leaving us with 2 of the same key. So now the next one is a number 3. So I go through, I find the one which is marked number 3, flick my guide up, line my keys up, make sure they're both in there nice and square. I look at my key now and I'm going for this position right here. If you can see it, I'm going to copy this onto my blank key. Going over it a few times. Okay, now my next cut is a double 2, which is good because it saves me having to rotate the key again. So I load in my 2 cut key, make sure it's lined up perfectly, and now I go into my 3rd and 4th position on the key. then my next one is a 1, and then I've got a 2 again. To save having to reload it, what I'm going to do is, I know my 6th cut is a 2, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip one cut, which is that cut, and I'm going to go do a 2 down here. Now with this particular key blank here, the number 1 cut is 700. Now we know the actual width of the key blade is 700, so we could actually get away with not even putting in that 1 cut. So that is our key right there. We'll give it a quick buff. There's our buffing wheel. Okay, and there's our key right there. Let's get the lock and we will try it. Actually, I should have the lock here somewhere. Okay, here's my lock. I'm going to see how it all looks. And look at that, it turns perfectly. So we've just cut that key to code. Most locks like this have opposing wafers where you've got one spring loaded this way and one spring loaded this way. This particular one has them all spring loaded on one side. That is why I know that we can try it and use it just like that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to transfer all of these cuts onto both sides of the key. So we'll take our space and depth keys out. I'm going to put all my key, which has all the information on the side that copies it, and then we're going to put this one on the duplicating side. So now I'm going to copy this on both sides of the key. Being a double-sided key, it's called a double-sided courtesy key, which means that you can actually put the key in both ways. Doesn't matter which way you put the key in, it's going to work the lock. So double-sided courtesy key, so you cut the grooves on both sides, and that way the user can use the key twice, or use it on either side they prefer, so they don't have to spin it around. Okay, so now this is one complete key, as you can see right here. I'll give it a quick buff as well. Now double-sided key I can use on both sides. One side, spin around, use it the other side, and because it's going out to, well, not really going out to a customer, but normally you'd be cutting two keys with each lock. That's the standard. So without wasting any, we're just going to flip this one over. So now I'm using the key which I've cut on both sides as my template for the other side of the key which we originally cut with the first bit of coding. Okay, now I'm just removing it. There's my key there. With a quick buff, I now have 2 working keys made from space and depth keys, which I decoded a lock with. And as you'll see, one side, 2 side, 1 side, 2 side, and that's 2 working keys for this lock. These space and depth keys are available from drlock.com.au. They're what you would use if you don't have access to a key machine, or if you're building or repairing a lock, or if you just want to cut whichever key it is you're cutting back to specifications. If I had these keys here for this lock and it didn't work very well, I could actually use my vernier calipers, compare the difference between my space and depth keys to these particular keys, and see if the previous key cutter has done a bad job in key cutting it, or a bad job of lining it up. And then from there I could work out where things need to be and cut it exactly right, guaranteeing my customer has a good key copy which will work good and reliable in the future. These space and depth keys are available from drlock.com.au. If you have any further queries, please email and we'll be happy to answer your questions.